And I want to start this first video on this channel talking about a little bit who I am and why I'm here. So I'm Ben. It's nice to meet you. I have been on a journey for roughly 20 years to follow a call that I received at that age after my father passed away. And we won't necessarily get into exactly what that call is in particular, but it was a call to follow Jesus and to teach others his way. And so I've been on that journey for 20 years, and it's had its up and downs. And the most significant down of all of this was about 2015 to 2019-ish, 2020. And I now call that as a whole a dark night of the soul. And so I'll make a video. I have it planned about exactly what a dark night of the soul is, but to put it real clearly, it's just a time in which you feel like God is far away and you can't feel his presence. And it just seems like all hope is lost. And so that's where I was, and I lived in that valley for 4 or 5 years. And there's even parts of me now that I look at, even the periods after my dad passed away, that I felt like I was kind of in that valley. And so really what I'm wanting to do here is talk about those kinds of things. Talk about the dark night, talk about the wilderness, talk about how to navigate it and to seek God in the midst of it. And in the words of A.W. Tozer, pursue God, pursue Jesus. And so what I will say is that in the midst of that dark night is quite a bit of deconstruction. And I'm going to talk about on this channel the things that I did deconstruct. But the goal is to reconstruct. And so this channel exists, and I hope it exists, and as I keep going forward, is to help you reconstruct your life back into the way of Jesus. That's why I think I exist. That's the purpose I feel like that God has given me is to help others reconstruct. And so a big part of that calling, and I said I would talk about it later, but there was a part of the thing that happened after my dad passed, about 6 months afterwards, where I was wrestling with God. I was angry with him. I didn't understand why he did what he did. And I attributed everything to him. But that's just not the case. God didn't kill my dad. But that's for another video. But what happened one night in my room, was God met me there and impressed upon me that he wanted me to be a spiritual father to many. Now, as a 14-year-old, I'm sure you're sitting here thinking, like, what? Like, that's grandiose. Like, some of you may not even believe that God still speaks. But I felt a very strong impression that as he was confirming to me that he will always be my father and he will always be there to guide me and love me and pursue me and take me where I need to go. He was also telling me that in the same way, he wanted me to be a father to others. And so that's what this is. This is me publicly. I've always done this kind of more privately within the confines of a church in obscurity, and I still want to embrace obscurity, but I want to see what it looks like to be that spiritual father to many. But that I want to see what it looks like to be that spiritual father to many. And so we're going to talk about a lot of things. Like I already mentioned, dark nights of the soul. What is spiritual formation? What are the seasons of our life, and how should we look at our life? And the big part of my life right now that I think that is going to be a big way that I organize what it looks like to be a family in God, the church, if you will, is ordering ourselves around a rule of life. Over the past 5-ish years, and technically most of my spiritual tutelage, if you will, I've been very, very, very enamored with monasticism, Christian monasticism, to be clear. Saint Benedict and Saint Anthony, and a lot of, even from a Protestant perspective, the Moravians. And so there's a lot of talk about practice in here, and prayer, and communion with God, and seeking his presence. And in the midst of all of that, I'm also charismatic, if you haven't been able to tell yet. I believe that God still speaks. I believe that miracles can still happen. I've seen them with my own 2 eyes. And so I am what I kind of call myself a charismatic contemplative, or a contemplative charismatic, whichever way you would like to put that. So in the midst of all of that, I just want to be here to talk about, just some of the things that I am interested in, that I love talking about, that I love studying. But it's also to just be a resource to you. To maybe, I'm not a certified spiritual director, but to be a spiritual director in your life from afar, while you're trying to figure out this whole thing called life with Jesus. And I think that that's it. I think that's my introduction. We'll get to know each other more and more as the time goes on. You'll learn my story. I hope I get to learn some of y'all's stories. And maybe we can craft this thing online where we follow a rule of life together into the way of Jesus. The point being that we learn how God loves us so that we can love others. Cheers.